So here's where you really have to be careful. You have to try to make sure that you don't repeat too many shapes. And I'm just going to take my fine brush and I'm going to look at the way things are laid out already here, and I'm going to try to enhance some of those things. Like I see this reddish brown strip right through here. So if I was to put some markings kind of along that strip, very fine, and kind of helps define an area here. So now this area here almost looks like a bush, or like a clump of briars or something like that. So I can take some of these really fine dark marks on my light side and enhance these light areas. So I have a lot of big areas of color here that I want to break up. Because after all, this is our foreground, so it's going to have a lot of texture to it. A lot of texture. See these other shapes here. Make sure I don't get too much paint here. And I'll start to break these up a little bit. I don't want these great big brown things looking like I'm trying to make grass, because it's just not, doesn't work. Okay. So I'm making kind of random just touches with kind of different directions here. Kind of start making myself some kind of leafy shapes, kind of like some of you did with your glowing leaves with the tree. Kind of stuffed up today. We had a fire last night out behind the house, and we got a face full of smoke on more than one occasion. So once again, I'm just breaking this up with small shapes. We don't have to know what all these shapes are. They're just little markings to show that there are different things there. And a lot of what you do with watercolor kind of leaves something to the imagination. And this is just like I said before, this is like a color I'm using. It's just like a grayish brown. But if you go for a walk in the field, you're going to see all kinds of variations of light and dark. Even within a bright field, you'll see some dark areas. So especially when your light source is coming from a certain direction, you're going to see more dark areas over here. And that's what I'm going to try to establish. Over here. Yeah, that's better. That was too much brightness right there. Just kind of breaking this up a little bit. Now we'll add some more color over here later, but for now I'm just trying to kind of establish some shadowy areas. See, that's the thing with this. I will go back and forth a lot. And because I kind of, you know, you develop a feel for what you want to do as you go sometimes. Now, what I'm picturing that I'd like to pull into this is some more reddish colors instead of just the gold. I think the gold gets kind of boring after a while. So, I guess we're looking at this as kind of like a late summer picture. And you can see I didn't get red here. I put some red in with kind of these earthier tones. Remember, these are kind of more neutral colors. They've been mixed with complementaries and things like that to tone them down. And it's too bright. If you think it's too bright, you can dab it out right away with your finger. Or if you have a paper towel or tissue or something handy, you can dab it out. So I got this gold strip here, and I'm kind of accenting it with some of this reddish color. I think it's going to work out pretty well. Just to kind of brighten things up. And remember, I don't want to put too big of marks back here. I might put a couple marks. But that's the distance. We want to keep it very kind of somewhat smooth. But up here, we can make more pronounced markings. Now, it might be hard to see, but I'm making the tip of this brush bend in different directions as I go. And that gives you different types of markings. You can see here, we're starting to build some layers of different textures and different colors. That's what you ideally want to do, is you want to build layers of different textures and colors. Bring some of this forward here. So you know that's a little too contrived there, so I'm going to tone it down a little bit. Come over here and make some markings. You know, a lot of this too is reflection. When you're done making some marks, stop and look at it and think, you know, what's this area better defined as, and what does this area, how does this area work? So I have this little brown clump here. I'm going to break this up a little bit. For me, these kind of areas here are a constant process of finding shapes within and defining some and breaking some other ones up. And see, we want to add a little color over here, even though this is our darker side. Now, if you get an area you kind of like, don't get carried away and just do more and more and more of it all over the place. You got to stop, shift gears, go to something a little bit different. And the nice thing about having a messy palette like this is you don't get stuck with like, okay, I'm going to use this green, I'm going to use this red, I'm going to use this yellow. You don't get stuck. You can kind of move around a little bit. See, I'm just barely skipping across the surface here of this paper. Now, another thing that I see that I might want to do is, I have the blue in the sky, but what about a little bit of blue down in here to kind of help balance things out. Ohio doesn't have a lot of blue flowers, but no other place in the country do. We'll see if we can see I'm barely touching it. It doesn't take a lot. I'm indicating that there's a little there. I have a little kind of a patch here, but it's actually dots, and I'm skipping around a little bit. Change your spacing, change your size. Now when I do more work down in here, I will get into more defined shapes of things, like maybe some bush branches and things like that, but not right now. Now I'm not liking how I have these blotches here that look like blotches, so I'm going to try to kind of make this more of a dispersed kind of thing. Here's a new color. Once again, just breaking these areas up. So I got some big blobs here. I think I'll work with those. When you're doing this, take your time, let it develop, stop, look, see what you can fix, see what you can break up. A lot of times if I can, like I have this big area here that's one kind of shade, a variety of like watered down grayish browns. So I'll come on back with a fine brush after it's dry, and I'll give it a little more refined texture. Remember, if you feel like too much paint got on there, wipe it off real quick, or you can dab it off with the tissue. So I'm getting some really like light watered down color out here. I'm just kind of scattering it a little bit. I don't want to get this to look too shapely, like it looks like a V. I want to kind of try to break it up a little bit, open it up a little bit. Myself a little bit of don't know if I like that, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so work with this area, develop some nice textures. And I'll have part 6 tomorrow. I think I have some other ideas of what I want to do with this. But kind of finish this area up. I don't feel like this area is finished, but I think that's enough recording for now. And we'll come back to it later.